to Boards and Commissions meeting for February the 3rd. This evening on the agenda, we have a position available for the Transportation Board, and this is a Republican position. And today, we had several candidates that applied, and we have one that showed up today. At this time, we'll ask Will Miller if he'd come over to the table.
How are you doing today?
Good, and yourself?
Doing great.
Well, this is for the position on the Transportation Board, and you are a Republican, and that's what we're looking for. So please give us some information about yourself and tell us why you feel you are.
Okay. Well, my name is Willie Miller. I'm the vice chair of the Republican Party in Gary. I sit behind Dr. Douglas Wright. He's the chairman, and also in our leadership group we have Judge Grimes. He's the secretary and treasurer, and we definitely feel like we need to, how should we say, be of assistance and teamwork oriented in pushing our city forward. That would entail great input, great research, teamwork in looking at best practices to increase our revenues on the public transportation, doing team building where we look at opportunities to allow businesses that may want our residents to have transportation and could possibly fund some of that if we have systems in place. So I'm excited because I've been looking at everything that the council wants to do and everything that our city needs, and I feel like good teamwork and collaboration is where we're headed. I did run for councilman at large. I was very excited about that. I'm just as enthusiastic about bipartisan hard work and reporting back to my Republican constituents. Okay, this is another opportunity for us to increase our revenues and have happier citizens that can get around from A to B, whether it's a senior citizen or a young citizen without a vehicle. So I think it's a win-win situation.
You have any questions?
No, my husband would be so excited you're a Kappa. I just have to look down at him like, oh.
Kappa Alpha Psi, that's what we achieve. That and even more so, that's we talk about politics, but more than that, elections over, all the other stuff is over. It's time to really get down and say, hey, how can we make sure we work together? How can people on the board give the council information so that you have a folder, boom, we did a little research on this, this is what we came up with, and then you have some feedback, because as a business professor, that's the only way groups do good projects. It's the only way you get good outcomes is a multitude of resources coming to the table. So I feel like it's time for us to put some resources together and look at ways we can increase
Well, that's one of the
revenues.
things that we require as a council person, that whomever we appoint to a board, that they report back to us and give us that kind of information that you just mentioned. So that's important. Yeah.
That's the plan, definitely.
Okay.
I couldn't imagine anyone in my class not giving reports. I actually teach a class. I work for Oakland City University, and I teach at Westville. So I have a different constituency. I've taught other classes, but this is the most exciting my classes have been since teaching on the collegiate level, because all of my students are incarcerated.
Okay.
But they are focused on taking steps forward and doing things that will allow them to not get caught up in the recidivism type of circular door there. And you'll be amazed at some of the things that go on. And partially, as I pay attention to how the Transportation Board is put together, I look at citizens that come back into the community that are in those circumstances that would benefit from really having great information disseminated to them along there with their reentry packages, and in addition, uh, having entities that may be interested in hiring them, because there are some next level programs that they could get into that are varied, that some businesses may act on if there's a system in place. So if you're on a board, potentially it could lead to collaborations with businesses they want to hire. They want to hire someone who is maybe past what's called a KEYS test. No, they're ready to hire them because that's a national certificate of readiness, and maybe they're even willing to cover their transportation, such like a, what's that company? They do postal, UPS, how they actually pick up at St. Timothy and take their actual workers to work on a regular basis. Things of that
Where the
nature.
pickup is now?
Yep.
Oh, okay.
Yep. So
Mm.
I visit over there. Sometimes I play over there. Not attorney, I said Reverend Jackson, and I know the musicians over there. They call me every now and then to help out. But when you know things like that, then that's when the planning can go into place. And if our area median income is low and people can't afford cars, and we know where they are, then we can put our heads together and come up with some solutions and think along those. If we're thinking along those lines, then slowly but surely the revenue increases. And then if it's a public safety thing where we want to pay attention to more of what's going on, then we can plan along all of those lines. So that's why I'm excited.
Attorney Williams, do you have any questions?
I would only ask, I'm sure it may be rhetorical, but we've had this issue before. I'm assuming by you running, you did vote in the most recent primary as a Republican.
Yeah.
Very well. We've had some candidates that did not, and we brought them on, and then we got complaints from the Republican Party that they didn't qualify. So that's something I'm going to ask moving forward of all of our
Yes.
candidates to
I
make
agree.
sure that they qualify. But I was sure you're running, you voted.
I
But
definitely.
that would be my only concern, Madam Chair.
I agree, and in addition, I would think that and our expectation is every Republican not only do a good job on whatever board they're appointed to, but we're Dr. Wright and I were talking in our last meeting about just a quick, basic form, letter of more of a SWOT analysis. That way, we know what's going on each board, and if there needs to be a bipartisan letter sent, then now you have more of a Gary coalition.
Sure.
And yeah, we're conservative because we want to dot the I's and cross the T's because we haven't been as thorough with that. Well, part of that is our responsibility as the party that, to me, really is our job to say, hey, what about this? What about that? That's why you have two parts. And when you don't have one part, it's like you're boxing with one arm. So in a good way, a positive way, you should have your kid brother saying, why are we doing this way? And you're like, oh, kid brother's asking another question. But it should be all focused on Gary. So,
Okay.
yeah.
Mr. Parnell, you have a question?
Oh, okay, have you ever been to the board meeting?
For the public transportation, I
yeah.
paid attention to it on television,
Yeah,
but
they don't
in
take-
terms of the time.
It's not on TV. We had a board meeting every first Thursday at 6 o'clock at GPTC. You know, that's one of the things they're complaining about. Nobody comes to the board meeting. It's only a couple of people.
When
Me
did
and
we
Kevin
start
and
coming?
Judy at that board meeting. But they got a lot of things they gotta do. You know, one of the main things is trying to increase the hours of the bus transit. They be cutting it off at 6:30 and 8 o'clock, you know.
And people get off work.
need more than that, you know. And, you know, the problem too is that they're always looking for help, you know. They're still looking for, I think, 89 bus drivers right now.
Really?
89 bus drivers and I think a couple people in finance they're looking for, you know. But we're having it this Thursday, you know, at 6 o'clock, right at GPTC, you know, but no one ever comes, so.
You said 6 o'clock
Well,
Thursday?
it'll be at, 5:30 is supposed to start, but the executive session is at 5 and they never get out there until about 6.
Okay.
It's, you know, 5:30 is on the board packet, you know. Come and take a look and see what's going on, man. It's pretty wise.
Okay, definitely. That's point blank the most important thing, period.
Yeah, because, they recently hired a new director, Jerome Parker. He's the director now, but he's trying to, get it straight. But one thing I worry about is that their budget is totally federally.
Right,
So
right.
it's all
Kind of
it
the
is,
weight, so,
trying to get things going, it's pretty hard, Hoping, they can increase the hours, and and the ridership, that's one of the main things, Then they got a lot of things they're trying to get, once they, if nobody shows up, they cut the route out, that means there's gonna be any bus service that day. I said, somebody, I think the manager, somebody's supposed to take over in a situation like that, but, that was one of the things I would like to see there,
so you're saying that when no one's on that route as they're going about, they'll
If
cut it short?
somebody misses work, believe it or not, they don't run that route. It's nobody, if they don't have anybody.
So unbeknownst to that person that's waiting out there,
Yeah,
they could
they
be
don't
waiting
know.
and there's no alert that comes?
No alert, I, quite a few times at the hospital, Methodist Hospital, 85th Broadway.
Okay.
People out there waiting, they be out there 8 and 9 o'clock waiting on the bus. I have to tell them, there ain't no bus coming.
So part of my background, I was, as I taught at Ivy Tech, I taught the Patient Protection Affordable Care Act. I was a navigator, but I wasn't just a navigator, I was the trainer. So I have relationships with different navigators, and part of that is setting up people to have Medicaid and different opportunities, and that was one of the groups, a combination of Community Health Net or Methodist Hospital or Merriam Health Service, all of those entities, along with just the system of healthcare, that sometimes they're willing to pay for transportation. So when you're looking at keys to access, you have to look at two things. Where's the revenue going to come from? And how are we going to make it where it's going to flow in? So as we're talking about later routes, I think it would definitely lead into meetings with the coalition that just met in relationship to healthcare, because Methodist just did their three-month report, and people getting to the doctor's office and our transportation, along with our air and median income, some of the biggest kind of health needs. Well, how do we make kind of fit together? I think that's going to be a prime thing, because if you expand the routes, then we have to make sure people are there. Or if there is a way to make sure monthly, or really we want monthly passes up front to be paid for, then now you feel more comfortable because of the revenues being there, and there's a way to kind of put it together and know what you're forecasting, because we have to make sure not only that we can pick up the people, that we can pay for it, right? Yeah, we can pay for it. So
well, yeah, ridership is important if you're gonna, you know.
Now, if we know ahead of time that, we got a package where we know that monthly passes have been purchased in collaboration with the healthcare centers, because we need to make sure those people get there, then we can feel more comfortable kind of forecast. It's a deep dive, but now you've got probably more people that's a little bit safer, and then you're getting the people where they need to be. So kind of do some research on our routes and see who's on the line. I don't know how fast it happens, but when you're talking about how do you make sure the buses are filled, I think those additional meetings
Okay, well,
lend themselves.
sounds like you may have a lot of stuff to take to them. Okay, if we don't have any other questions, we thank you so much for coming. I see no one else showed up who submitted their letters of interest, and we thank you for coming.
Okay.
And if you're able, show up to tomorrow's council meeting. It starts at 6 o'clock.
6 o'clock.
Yes, sir.
All right.
All right, thank you. Any, no other questions?
No.
Okay, that's the end of our meeting. Thank you so much.
All right. Thank you.
That's a wrap.
That's a wrap.
So what time was it? Somebody said it was at 6 o'clock on the radio today.
What's that?
Good.
The council meeting? Yes,
And
tomorrow.
they know today.